All right, let's do this. Today we're going deep, really deep into the Descent franchise.
Oh,
Two
yes.
films that redefine survival horror,
Yeah.
And you guys, the listeners, always send over the best stuff.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait to, dig into it all.
Yeah.
See what we can unearth about the Descent.
Absolutely.
So, picture this. You're trapped deep underground in total darkness
Oh,
with creatures lurking all around you.
yeah, that's
The Descent.
the terrifying premise we're dealing with today.
Yeah, and they make that feeling of claustrophobia so real.
Right.
The caves almost become like another character.
Yeah,
They really embody that feeling of being trapped and the struggles that the characters are going through.
absolutely. So the first film, which came out in 2005, throws us right into the action with 6 friends on a caving expedition.
Right.
They're looking for adventure, some thrills, a little escape from their everyday lives.
Of course.
But they're about to get a lot more than they bargained for. Yeah, they find out pretty quickly that nature can be just as terrifying as any monster movie.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of monsters, we've got to talk about the crawlers.
Oh, yeah.
These things are the stuff of nightmares.
Truly.
I mean, forget your classic movie monsters.
Yeah.
These things are truly disturbing.
They're just so creepy.
Blind, pale, they move with this, unsettling agility.
Yeah.
It's like just thinking about them sends chills down your spine.
The design is just brilliant.
Yeah.
The filmmakers were inspired by deep-sea creatures.
Yeah.
So they have this really unique look, both human and completely alien.
It's like that uncanny valley thing.
Yes, exactly. It's disturbing, but you can't look away.
And it's not just how they look, it's how they behave, that really gets under your skin.
Yeah, like their echolocation.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
They've adapted to this world of darkness, using sound to hunt and navigate.
Right. Like bats.
Exactly, like bats.
Yeah.
But imagine those clicks and echoes coming from a creature that wants to tear you apart.
Oh, man. That's nightmare fuel right there.
It's just pure primal fear, right? You can't see what's coming for you.
Yeah, the unknown is always scarier.
Absolutely.
But, like we said, The Descent is more than just a monster movie.
Oh, much more.
There's a lot going on beneath the surface, metaphorically,
Right.
that elevates it beyond your typical creature feature.
Absolutely. It delves into some really heavy themes. Trauma, survival, the complexities of female friendships,
Yeah.
all pushed to their absolute limits.
Yeah. Sarah, the main character, is dealing with some serious grief, right? She lost her family in a horrific accident.
Right.
And the caving trip was supposed to be a healing experience for her.
A chance to reconnect with her friends,
Yeah.
rediscover his strength.
But instead, it turns into this descent into a different kind of darkness.
Exactly, the darkness of the human psyche.
Yeah, like the caves become a reflection of her internal struggle.
Right, she's not just physically trapped down there,
Yeah.
but emotionally trapped too.
I remember that scene where she has a flashback to the car accident
Oh, yeah.
while she's stuck in this tight passage.
Oh, man.
It's like the physical claustrophobia is mirroring her emotional claustrophobia.
It's brilliant filmmaking.
Yeah, it adds so much depth to the horror.
It's not just about jump scares, it's about what's going on inside the characters.
And speaking of adding layers, we've got to talk about those different endings.
Oh, yeah.
The UK and US releases have slightly different conclusions.
Right.
And they're both pretty messed up in their own way.
Right.
What's the deal with that?
Well, I think it just adds to the film's overall unsettling nature.
Yeah.
In the UK version, the ending is really bleak.
Yeah.
Sarah thinks she's escaped, but it turns out to be a hallucination.
Oh, wow.
She's still trapped, alone in the dark.
Oh, man.
It's like a statement about the lasting effects of grief
Right.
and how it can be really difficult to truly overcome such a profound loss.
That's heavy stuff.
It is.
But the US version, it offers a glimmer of hope, right?
It does. Sarah actually makes it out of the caves.
Yeah.
But even then, there's still this lingering sense of unease.
Yeah.
We see her escape physically,
Yeah.
but the look on her face, it suggests that she's still haunted by what she's experienced.
Right.
It makes you wonder which is more terrifying,
Yeah.
being physically trapped or being trapped by your own memories.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is.
You know what's always amazed me about The Descent?
What's that?
It's how this film, with its pretty modest budget, became such a huge success,
Oh, yeah.
both with critics and audiences.
It's a classic.
What do you think it was about this film that resonated so strongly?
I think it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
The claustrophobic atmosphere, for one.
Mm-hmm.
The creature design is genuinely terrifying, and the performances are so raw and believable.
They really are.
But it also goes deeper than that.
Yeah.
It taps into our primal fears.
Like what?
The fear of the unknown,
No.
the terror of being trapped, the vulnerability we feel when faced with unimaginable horror.
And we can't forget the fact that the film has a strong all-female cast.
Oh, absolutely. That was groundbreaking for a horror film back in 2005.
It really was.
And it definitely adds to the film's impact.
It's not just a bunch of damsels in distress, you know?
Not at all.
These women are fighters.
Yes.
They're complex, they're flawed, and their relationships with each other are just as compelling as the horror elements.
I think that's what makes it so relatable.
Yeah,
It's not just about the scares, it's about the characters and their relationships.
absolutely. So we've explored the depths of the descent.
Yeah.
But there's another chapter to this story, another layer to this, the subterranean nightmare.
Oh, yes.
The sequel, The Descent, Part 2, takes us right back into those claustrophobic caves.
Back into the darkness.
Picking up where the first film left off, with Sarah, our sole survivor, battling amnesia and the
Yeah.
trauma of her first descent.
It's like the nightmare continues.
And this time, we're not just going deeper into the caves, we're going deeper into the world itself.
Yes. We learned so much more about the crawlers in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Their behavior, their hierarchy. We even get hints about their reproductive cycle.
Oh, wow.
It's like peeling back another layer of the onion,
Yeah.
revealing more disturbing truths about these creatures and the world they inhabit.
It's like the filmmakers knew we would be hungry for more.
Oh, absolutely.
And they delivered.
They did.
But they didn't just deliver on the scares and the gore.
No.
They also wove in some really interesting questions about the nature of fear itself.
Like, what happens when we confront the darkness? Both literally and metaphorically. Can we ever really escape the things that haunt us?
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued.
Good.
Let's unpack this sequel, shall we? What exactly does The Descent Part 2 tell us about the crawlers?
All right, let's dive in.
And how does it build on those themes from the first film?
It's a wild ride, that's for sure.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's do it. Well, the sequel picks up right where we left off with Sarah, still dealing with the trauma and now amnesia on top of it all.
Right.
She's forced back into the caves.
Oh, man.
But this time, it's not just about her personal journey,
Yeah.
We've got a whole rescue team thrown into the mix.
Okay.
A sheriff with some secrets.
Oh.
And even a kind of creepy coroner
Oh, no.
who seems a little too interested in the crawlers, if you ask me.
Okay, so it's like the sequel is saying, hold on, you thought the first one was intense.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Exactly. And it's interesting how Part 2 shifts the focus a little.
Yeah.
It's not just Sarah's internal struggle anymore.
Right.
We're seeing how the crawlers impact a whole group of people,
Yeah.
each with their own, motivations, vulnerabilities.
And we get a much closer look at the crawlers themselves, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not just about those jump scares anymore.
No.
We're learning more about their behavior, their social structure, like where they even come from.
Exactly. And remember how the first film kind of left us wondering,
Yeah.
where did these things come from?
Yeah.
Part 2 gives us some clues.
Oh, really?
Like, there's this scene where they find these ancient cave paintings
No way.
depicting the crawlers,
Oh, wow.
suggesting they've been in this ecosystem, for centuries, maybe even longer.
So, like, they've always been there,
Yeah.
lurking in the shadows,
Exactly.
waiting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so creepy.
It adds a whole new level of unease to the franchise.
Yeah.
And remember we talked about echolocation
Uh-huh.
in the first film?
Yeah.
Well, Part 2 goes even further.
Oh, yeah?
It shows how they use sound, not just to hunt, but to, communicate
Wow.
with each other.
Okay.
It even shows a rudimentary social hierarchy.
So they're not just mindless monsters.
Yo.
They have, like, some level of intelligence
Yeah.
and a social structure.
Right, which makes them even scarier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the film doesn't shy away from the gory stuff either.
I've heard that.
We see their hunting tactics in all their brutal efficiency.
Oh, gosh.
How they use the environment to their advantage.
Right.
Like they've evolved to be the perfect predators in this crazy underground world.
I've read some pretty crazy fan theories about where the crawlers come from.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Some people think they were human once,
Oh, wow.
a tribe that went underground, and over generations adapted to the darkness.
It's a fascinating theory.
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to our fears about what could happen to us,
Right.
If we were cut off from the world,
Yeah.
forced to adapt or die,
Yeah.
like a twisted evolutionary experiment.
And it makes you wonder, are the crawlers like a warning?
Oh, interesting.
A glimpse into what we could become if we give in to our darkest instincts?
Yeah, if we let the darkness consume us.
It's a question the film definitely leaves us thinking about.
It does.
But even beyond like the creature feature stuff, part 2 digs into the effects of trauma. Yeah.
Especially with Sarah.
Yeah, her amnesia, that adds a whole other layer to her story.
It's like a double nightmare for her. You know?
Yeah,
She's fighting these creatures,
right.
but she's also fighting to remember who she is.
It's like a metaphor for how trauma can break apart our sense of self,
Yeah.
our understanding of reality.
And the film doesn't give us any easy answers.
Right.
It leaves us questioning
Yeah.
what's real, what's not, how much of Sarah's experience is because of the trauma.
Now, some people have said that the sequel is more action-packed than the first film.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little less psychologically nuanced.
Yeah, I can see that.
What do you think?
I think it's fair to say they ramped up the action and the gore.
Yeah.
You know, there's more set pieces, more characters to root for or be scared for.
Right.
And the pace is definitely faster.
Yeah, yeah.
It keeps you on the edge of your seat.
I can see how some viewers might miss that slower burn from the first one.
Yeah, that psychological tension.
Yeah.
But I think part 2 still manages to create a sense of claustrophobia
Yeah.
and dread, even with all the chaos.
Right.
And the added crawler mythology really adds something new to the franchise.
Yeah.
It's not just monsters in the dark anymore.
Right.
We're dealing with a whole ecosystem,
Uh-huh.
a history that goes way back,
Yeah.
and a threat that seems to be getting stronger.
And we can't forget that ending.
Oh, man.
It's a real twist. It makes you question everything you thought you knew.
It's like the filmmakers are saying, we're just getting started.
Right. There's so much more to this story.
Exactly.
So we've explored both films now.
We have.
The terrifying crawlers, the complex characters, those thought-provoking themes.
It's been quite a journey.
What strikes me about the Descent franchise is its lasting impact
Oh, yeah.
on the horror genre.
It's influential.
Like, it unleashed this wave of claustrophobic horror,
It did.
tapping into a primal fear that was just waiting to be explored.
And filmmakers have been running with it ever since. Yeah. Like, think about As Above, So Below,
Oh, yeah.
taking us into the catacombs of Paris.
Yeah, or The Cave, with those explorers trapped in Romania.
It's fascinating how these films play on our vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
Our fear of being trapped, lost in a place where the rules don't apply.
Yeah,
And it's not just about physical spaces.
right.
The Descent reminds us we can be trapped by our memories,
Yeah.
our fears, the darkness inside us.
Yeah, it's like the real horror isn't always out there.
Yeah.
It's within us.
And I think that's what makes the Descent franchise so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just about cheap thrills.
Mhm.
It's about exploring the darkest parts of being human
Yeah.
and reminding us that the scariest monsters might be the ones we create ourselves.
Oh. No, that's a chilling thought.
It is.
We've covered so much.
We have
The caves, the
Mhm.
crawlers, the characters, the franchise's legacy.
a lot to unpack.
But there's one more thing I'd like to touch on.
Oh, okay. What's that?
It's the crawlers themselves. They're such iconic figures in horror,
They are.
Their design, their behavior, the mystery surrounding them,
Yeah,
it all taps into our deepest fears.
for sure.
I'd love to spend some time unpacking what makes them so terrifying.
Yeah, let's shine a light on these creatures lurking in the dark.
Yeah.
See what makes them tick.
So we've got these crawlers. They've become like synonymous with claustrophobic horror, What is it about them? What makes them so effective?
Well, it's a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's the design, how they move, the mystery. It all works together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Visually, they're just unsettling,
Yeah.
Pale, no hair, those blank eyes staring out for the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
And they're humanoid, which I think makes them even creepier.
Right.
It's like looking at a twisted version of ourselves.
Yeah, like what we could become.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that goes back to what we were saying before, that fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
that fear of human devolution. Like, are we just one step away from becoming these things?
Mm-hmm. And it's not just how they look, right? It's how they move, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're so agile, so quick, almost insect-like.
Yeah, the way they scurry and climb, it's unnatural.
And they're blind, right?
Totally blind,
They use echolocation to hunt.
which just adds another layer of terror. you know.
Oh, gosh.
Every little sound, every click, every scrape could be a crawler getting closer.
I was reading that some scientists compare the crawlers to real cave creatures,
Oh, really?
like the Olm. Like
Ooh.
it's a blind salamander that lives in caves.
Wow, that's amazing.
It just shows you how nature can create these strange and fascinating creatures, even in the darkest places.
It's true, and it's that realism, that grounding in the natural world that makes the crawlers so effective.
Yeah, because somewhere in the back of our minds, we know that creatures like this could actually exist.
Exactly. It plays on our primal fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
the things that go bump in the night.
And I love how the films never fully explain where the crawlers came from.
Right. It's part of the mystery.
Yeah, it just adds to the sense of dread.
We get hints, little glimpses into their past,
Yeah.
but the filmmakers are smart. They leave a lot to our imagination.
Which is where the fan theories come in.
Oh, yeah, those are fun.
You mentioned the theory that they were once human.
Yeah, that's a popular one.
Are there any other big theories out there?
Oh, yeah, tons. Some
Yeah.
people think they're aliens, like the result of some ancient crash landing.
Oh, wow.
Others think they're connected to, like, a supernatural force,
Oh, interesting.
like a manifestation of the darkness in the caves.
It's like the crawlers have become this blank canvas for our fears, right?
Exactly. They can represent whatever scares us the most.
So it's not just about the creatures, it's about what they represent.
Right, they're symbols. They tap into our deepest anxieties.
We've talked about the creatures, the setting, but what really elevates The Descent is how it uses all of that to explore deeper themes.
Oh, absolutely, like trauma and survival.
Exactly. They show how we react under pressure.
The characters are facing these external threats,
Yeah.
but they're also battling their own inner demons.
Yeah, and it's not just about surviving on your own, it's about the connections we have with other people.
Right, those bonds can help us get through anything.
I mean, think about Sarah and Juno in the first film.
Oh, yeah.
Their friendship is tested like you wouldn't believe.
It's brutal.
But even with all the chaos and betrayal, there are still these moments of real connection.
And we can't forget that the first film has a mostly female cast.
Yeah, that was pretty groundbreaking for a horror film back then.
It really was.
And it adds another layer to those themes of friendship and empowerment.
Absolutely. These women are not just victims. They're strong, resourceful. They fight back.
So as we resurface from this deep dive into The Descent, what are some key things you hope our listeners will think about?
Well, I hope they realize that horror can be more than just cheap scares, It can be a way to explore the human experience, to face our fears,
Yeah.
and to see the strength of the human spirit.
And it's a reminder of how powerful filmmaking can be.
Absolutely.
The way sound and visuals and story can create something truly unforgettable.
And it leaves us with a question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are the real monsters the creatures in the dark, or is it the darkness inside us?
That's a question we should all think about.
I think so.
So we've come to the end of our descent into The Descent.
We have.
We've explored the caves, met the crawlers, and unpacked the layers of meaning that make this franchise so great.
It's been a wild ride.
If you haven't seen these films, we highly recommend them.
Oh, yeah, but maybe leave a light on afterwards.
And if you have seen them, go back and watch them again.
Pay attention to the details, the symbolism, the way they use sound and darkness to create that feeling of dread.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we create ourselves.